This is Breitbart News Radio Special here. I'm Matt Boyle, our Washington political editor. We're broadcasting from the SiriusXM Broadcast Center on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. We're joined in studio here for this hour special by the Minority Leader in the U.S. House of Representatives, the one and only Congressman from California, Kevin McCarthy. Sir, thanks for joining us here for this hour special on Breitbart News Radio.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate all the work that you do in this. I listen to you quite often.
All right. Well, so where I want to start here is we are now about halfway through the first year of the Democrat majority and after the midterm elections where they took the House of Representatives. And if we look at the big picture here, the Democrats really haven't accomplished much of anything. I mean, I look at the legislative big picture things. I mean, what can they point to as an accomplishment as a majority that they've done as we start the conversation here looking forward to the 2020 election?
You know, that's why they have an internal fight going on, that they haven't accomplished anything. Even a while back, you had Congresswoman AOC's own chief of staff put a tweet out challenging any Democratic voter to name one thing the Democrat majority in the House had accomplished for the kitchen table. Then went on to question this legislative genius, referring to Speaker Pelosi. They don't have anything accomplished. And if you watch even what they're doing on the floor today, it is less productive than in modern times for a Congress. They're doing more resolutions and not legislation. And even when a committee did a work where Energy and Commerce had this 3 bills up to lower drug pricing, something that Republicans really want to achieve. And we came to a bipartisan consensus where all the Republicans and all the Democrats voted for those 3 bills where it would lower drug prices. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker, and the Democratic leadership, before those bills came to the floor, put a poison pill in it, changed it. And that's what's happening. That's why they're not being successful either. Even when there's opportunities to have success, they can't. They got to continue to put partisanship in there. It's almost like they don't want to be successful.
Why is that? Why do you think what you'd figure that because they campaigned on in 2018, they want to deal with healthcare, they want to do paid family leave, they want to do all these different things on infrastructure. They haven't done anything on any of those fronts. Why is it that they're so averse to doing something, working with you guys or working with the president?
You know, I've told the Speaker many times, like she'll sit when we're trying to come to an agreement. And remember, our government's designed to have compromise. Mm-hmm. No one person can get 100% of what they want, right? You've got the House, the Senate, then you've got the executive branch. But Speaker Pelosi and the Democrats, and to me, they're no longer Democrats, and they don't call themselves Democrats. They're socialist Democrats. Mm-hmm. I think there's this internal fight where they want that socialist wing of the party to take over. Mm-hmm. That's why they can't come to a consensus. That's why there's never enough. They can't do anything with Homeland. You have a congresswoman who says they should abolish the Homeland Security. And think about what's in there, the whole department. That is Secret Service. That's FEMA. That's other things. I mean, at any other given time, this country would be in an uproar if elected body said that. But what's come into the body today is socialism. And that's the strive, what's inside this past Democratic Party. They're not what they used to be. I'll give you one example that happened in this Congress recently. Back in July, we had what is called the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. Mm-hmm. Now, this is the most bipartisan bill we deal with. And for the last 58 years... The
NDAA
National
deals
Defense,
with authorization
It's the
for
authorization
military.
for our military, what we're going to be for the future, what we're growing, and everything else. And they've really kept it where troops come first, politics last. And for 58 years... Democrats have either been in control, Republicans and Democrats and Republicans. Despite all the changes in party power, this has always been bipartisan. Mm-hmm. This is the first year it was not. The only bipartisan vote was against it. Some Democrats voted against it, some Republicans, and the one independent. And they made it all partisan, which they didn't have to be. And that was the socialist wing of the party. And normally, like if I go back into the last Congress and you look at the NDA bill, the National Defense Authorization Act, when Republicans were in the majority, you know who had the most amendments on the floor? Democrats, the minority party. When it came to the Democrats and party this time, who had the most? Overwhelmingly, it was only like 16% were Republican amendments. So they wanted to go much further left. But when you went over and you looked at the Senate side, their National Defense Authorization Act passed with 86 votes. Senator Schumer voted for it, and so did McConnell. That they kept that tradition of bipartisanship. So it really comes to one common denominator. It's inside the majority in the House, this new Socialist Democratic Party, that doesn't want to work with anybody, that wants to impose something much different they imposed in the past. Remember, we had this whole position in NDAA that we would not allow these terrorists that are kept in Gitmo to come to America. No, in the new socialist one, they're going to want to bring these terrorists and put them into the homeland. And then you've got a Democratic congresswoman who wants to eliminate the Homeland, the Department of Homeland. I mean, it's outrageous that this is even going on.
The dynamics on the Democrat conference. So while the squad, so to speak, which is AOC and Omar and Presley and Tlaib, they garner a lot of the headlines and the attention. People don't maybe realize this. The districts that they won when they won the midterm elections. So if you go back to around the country, I mean, it's places like Staten Island or places like South Carolina. There's one seat. There's some throughout the heartland in like Nebraska, in Iowa. Places. There's one seat in Oklahoma. There's one in Utah. I mean, these are there's some in California.
Salt Lake City, Oklahoma City. Yeah. There's a couple in California. There are 31 seats the Democrats sit in today that President Trump carried. Of those 31, 13 of them he carried by more than 6 points. So here you have the socialist wing of the party trying to take them further left when the only way they have the majority is actually winning in Republican areas that would be swing districts. So if you sit back and you look at the last election, there's not one reason why the Republicans in the House lost the majority, but there are a couple. The first one being history, meaning that historically the party in power, meaning whoever wins the White House, that party normally loses an average of 30 seats on the off-year election. Barack Obama lost 63. 23 seats were our majority, so just history would beat us. We had more retirements than ever, the most in the Republicans, 41, in a year that was a bad year for us. The Democrats had $250 million more dollars than we did. So if you looked at, and the other thing the Democrats did, they sued and had redistricting done in a partisan way in Pennsylvania. So they got 3 seats to start up with. They changed the election law in Maine. This is what people should pay attention to. In Maine, you don't vote for one person. There's only 2 congressional seats. What you do is you rank them. So if somebody doesn't get to 50%, the ranking actually pulls somebody else up. So Bruce Paulkin, who was the congressman, got the most votes, but is not the member of Congress from Maine anymore. It's changing these type of things. Democrats turned out with a higher number. If you take all the Republican vote and all the Democrat vote, Democrats turned out 8% higher. But if you look at those 74 seats that make up the swing of the majority of Congress, now these are the 74 seats that Charlie Cook identifies, okay? The difference between Republican vote and Democrat vote is 1%. The difference between myself serving in the minority and serving in the majority is less than 107,000 votes. And then look at what the policies that this new Socialist Democrat Party is doing. They want to, their first most important bill, and when you become the majority, you reserve the first 10 numbers for your most important bill. So the most important bill, H.R. 1, was to take taxpayer money and give them for a campaign. Literally tax the American public and give them thousands of dollars for their own campaign. Then they have what is called Medicare for None. Medicare for None would literally take 180 million people's health care away, while at the same time bankrupt those who are currently on Medicare. It's more government control. That's what this really, I believe, this future election will be about. Socialism versus freedom, control versus freedom. And they just want a greater control over our lives.
So I know the president tweeted about this last month where he talked about how you've been raising a lot more money than we've seen in the past. There's been a big shift where We're seeing resources really significantly coming in for Republicans' efforts to retake the House. Can you tell us about those efforts? What are some of the things that you're doing? I mean, you're the leader here. What are some of the things that you're doing to retake the House majority, and where do things stand on that front?
Well, I'm putting a lot of effort in it, as well as a lot of people. Tom Emmer has done an amazing job. We have a recruitment team of more than 12 members that are out there. And I'll give you just some of the demographics of individuals that we've recruited across this country. 51% happen to be female. 40% of them minorities, 27% are veterans. If you look at how much, I've been able to raise more than $33 million, just myself in that basis. And that's in the minority. But what's happening here is America's waking up. They're seeing what's coming at them, this socialism and the control of what they want to take over. But look at the individuals who are running. You got this individual I met. His name is Wesley Hunt. He's running in Houston. This is a seat that we used to have, and it's been a Republican seat. Wesley Hunt is a graduate of West Point. He flew Apaches for more than a decade. He's married, has his first young daughter. And, you know, he defended these freedoms, and he says, if I defended those freedoms in other parts of the world to make sure America was safe, when I see them coming up today, I see America changing before my eyes, I cannot say I did nothing. He's engaged in the process. You look at Nicole up in Staten Island, a seat that President Trump carries. She's a state assemblywoman. She ran for...
We've had her on here.
She ran for mayor against de Blasio. She carried this district by 67%. There are a number of people across this country, young Kim, born in South Korea, understanding what it means for the American dream, running in California. A great opportunity. So we have people across this country that I really believe are waking up and want to have a debate.
So candidate recruitment is going well for Republicans.
We are further along in candidate recruitment than we've been in the past, yes.
What are some of the things that, because we have a very active listening audience and a lot of people that are going to read this story once we put it on the website and everything, and they're going to watch this video. What are some of the things out there that you think that the grassroots across the country needs to do to help you guys in this process of taking back the majority in the House?
Well, you got to get engaged. One thing the Democrats did very well last time is they got the grassroots involved. So they got turnout. So don't assume any seat is safe, and don't sit back and wait till Labor Day to get involved in a campaign. You should challenge these members. Remember the Democrats who were running last time who said they wouldn't support Nancy Pelosi. And they ended up voting for Nancy Pelosi. Remember, they said that they wanted to find common ground. Well, why are they voting with the Socialist Democrats? Did they vote for that NDAA bill that became more partisan? Did they stand up to their members when they were criticizing the belief of those with Jewish faith that they could be loyal to America or have to be loyal to Israel? This idea that America cannot be a friend of Israel anymore, that moving the new Democrat Socialist Party away from support of Israel, this idea that you want to control more of everything that's going on, the idea that they want to raise your taxes, the idea that they want to take your health care away. Go ask, because there's more than 100 members in the new Socialist Democratic Party who have co-sponsored Medicare for None. That is taking away your current health care system. Ask them that question. And the most important thing, Democrats had what was called Act Blue. Act Blue allows grassroots to give money, small dollar, and help candidates get engaged. And dollars to a candidate is more powerful than money anywhere else, because a candidate can reserve TV time at a lower rate than anybody else. And what they did is they empowered people that hadn't been empowered before. You should go to Win Red. The Republicans did not have this before. President Trump has put this together. He is raised more money online than any other person before, more than President Obama, more than the others. He's got an ability to bring the grassroots together, but you can't just help just the president, because what's happening is when you're not helping the others, the president's getting attacked. Think about what they just did for those 22 months at $40 million on this idea of looking at something that they knew there was no collusion about, but they just wanted to perpetuate this lie going forward.
Yeah, so now that kind of brings up the other for lack of a better word, elephant in the room, which is President Trump. Obviously looms large over the 2020 election. He is how big of a deal is it that President Trump win re-election for Republican chances in the House? Are they joined at the hip? Is this the type of thing that and what do you think President Trump's chances are right now, looking at the Democrat field? I mean, we're seeing them really drift further and further to the left on all sorts of different positions in the first couple debates here. I mean, what do you think? How does that play into this bigger picture? What do you think his chances are?
Two great questions there. Let's take them separate, okay? President Trump. When President Trump first ran for president, he won the presidency and we kept the majority. The president wasn't on the ballot and we lost the majority. So will it be helpful? Yeah, but everybody runs on their own at the same time, right? So that ability to be able to expand the base, that comes into the quality of the candidate, the recruitments and others. We'll get to that point. Now, who's going to be the Democrat nominee will matter a great deal. The first thing you have to do is not think about which Democrat is running, but think about the process and how they elect somebody, because it's not the same as it was 4 years ago. They eliminated the superdelegate on the first round. And the superdelegate is really the Democratic insurance policy that those on the left or the grassroots can't decide who the nominee is. That's why Bernie Sanders couldn't win last time, but now there's an opening. There's no longer any states that are winner take all. So it's a different game in the process. They focus more on you've got to have online ability to raise money. I was impressed with the amount of money in that last quarter that Elizabeth Warren was able to raise because she hasn't done a fundraiser, so she's got stability. I'm not one. Now, I could be wrong. Anyone who tells you that they know who the nominee is going to be, they're wrong. Because at any given time, somebody could become that nominee. We watched at time Rick Santorum win 13 primaries, coming very close. You got Marco Rubio coming close, but then he fell in one debate in New Hampshire before South Carolina, stumbled in that process. Joe Biden has run for president twice before, but hasn't done well, so I don't know why now will be different. He's got high name ID because he's been VP, and he's getting money, but he seems to be having to apologize every time he talks. And the party has kind of passed him by, okay? Bernie Sanders, I think, will do quite well. He came close in the last election. The party is more associated with his views. He's raising good money online. Elizabeth Warren, she's raising money. She says she has a plan and ideas that are much further left, so she's growing. You have Mayor Pete that hasn't been around. He seems to do well in money. Betos did well in the senatorial election, but didn't win. He seems to be floundering in the presidential. Kamala Harris had a very good first debate. We'll see how other things go. Does that maintain? A lot of people have one good moment in time. Can they continue it forward? Whoever is going to win this, they moved California up earlier, right? And it's not a winner take all state. And here you have Kamala Harris running from California, but Elizabeth Warren's ahead of her in the polls in California. Now that goes back and forth. Who is smart about a ground game? We have not seen any ground game yet, not until you get into an Iowa caucus, and then it starts moving rather rapidly. So when somebody drops out, where do those supporters go? I think there's a lot of players in. I personally wished Swalwell would have stayed in. Because I don't know.
I love the pass the torch moment that he had in that first debate, right? Like it was great. So
I think it was an example. If his own voters watched him, I don't think he could win Congress again. But it was always interesting and humorous to see him on stage. And you know what the Democrats did between the first and second debate? They stopped the ability to raise hands because they all look around and just raise their hands. Who's for raising more taxes? Who's for taking your health care away? Who's for more socialism? They're like putting two hands up.
Right. It's unbelievable.